record to this computer. Okay, we are recording. So let's start, and I'll share the screen here. So welcome to our Empathy Cafe. Just want to give a little short outline of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to start, we had talked about recording or not recording, so we already went through that. We're going to review our intentions, and then we're going to have share some personal introductions. We'll review how to take part in an empathy circle, and then we're going to go into our breakout rooms, which we really try to spend as much time as possible in these breakout rooms. Then about 15 minutes before the end of our time, which is 2 hours today, we're going to go into, we're going to come back into the full circle and then have a short debrief just about how the experience was. And we're recording this just to show people how this practice works. And if you're a viewer, you can check empathycircle.com for more information about about how to take part in these empathy circles. And we hope that you will join us in one. So, quick overview of our intention. What we're here for is to build a culture of empathy, and that really means for mutual support, so that we want every participant to feel mutually heard, seen, and understood, as well as we're here to learn and practice active listening. So I want to learn these basic skills. And it's also, it's a training for becoming a facilitator, because we really want to spread this practice and as many of you as possible to be able to take this practice and promote it and to use it in your local Extinction Rebellion groups, or even in your relationships in general. We use it in my family. We do family empathy circles, so the practice can be used in just about anywhere where people get together and relate. So you want to do short participant introductions to get started, and so we're just going to share your name, your location, and the Extinction Rebellion group that you're part of. And we already talked about record, not record, so you don't need to share that.
Well, there's one new participant, Lucy.
Okay.
So Lucy, if you don't want to be recorded, you will be in a breakout room that is not recorded. Okay.
No, I'm happy to be recorded. That's fine, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, so Carolina, do you want to just choose people and just go through those questions? I'm going to be, while you're doing that, I'm going to create these breakout rooms.
Okay, so to model our introductions, I will do myself introduction. My name is Karolina Kubiak. I'm calling from north of Poland, harbor city of Gdańsk. I am a member of Empathy Circle work group, and I'm also a member of local Extinction Rebellion group here in Poland. So that's me. And I will ask for introduction people around my screen. So next person is Mateusz. Would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm also from Poland, but from different parts other than Karolina is. So I'm from small town nearby Poznań, where it's a bigger group of Extinction Rebellion. So I'm our way of from them, and yeah, trying to help as much as possible, myself and others. Yeah. That's me.
Okay. So next is El Stan. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. So I'm El. I'm in London at the moment, and my usual XR group is in Leeds. Yeah. Was there anything else?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Susan?
I'm Susan Campbell. I live in Sebastopol, California, and I've been part of the Empathy Circle facilitator training. I'm a new facilitator, and I'm here just to see a little more about how I can support the XR movement.
You are not that new facilitator. You
Not that
actually
new.
have, yeah, you have bigger experience than me.
Okay, well, I've facilitated a lot of things in my life, but I'm fairly new to empathy circles, but I love this model and I want to further it in the world.
Yeah, thank you. Vinny, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm
Okay.
Vinny. I'm Vin, they, them, theirs. I am based in St Albans, which is just north of London. I'm a member of the St Albans Extinction Rebellion group. We're all extremely busy and extremely excited, and it looks like Empathy Circles is what I'm going to be spending the rebellion doing. The atmosphere over here is absolutely electric right now. We're a little bit concerned about some of the things that have been happening last couple of days, but we're excited and we're positive.
Okay, thank you. So next is Bill. Bill?
Hi, yeah, I'm Bill. I'm in Northern California near Edwin. I'm a retired special education teacher. I'm an Empathy Circle facilitator, and I'm taking the XR Army of Facilitators training.
Okay, thank you. Marta, would you introduce also?
Hi, I'm Marta. I'm based in Cork in Ireland, and I'll be going up to Dublin for Rebellion Week soon. So excited about that.
Thanks, great. Lucy, would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm also in Ireland in West Cork. I'm one of the coordinators for our local group here. I'm generally quite a stoic person, but I do like to listen to other people. So I do see the need for a bit of self-care for myself. So I'm interested in seeing how this goes and if it can, help me offload a little bit as well. So yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. And Tony. Tony, would you introduce yourself?
Hi there. Sorry I'm late. Glad to be here. I'll introduce myself. I'm in London. I'm doing lots of different groups at the same time, but I'm planning to do empathy circles next week or the week after, hopefully, at the Rebellion in London.
Great. And Edwin, you are the last.
Okay, I'll just ask Tony, did you want to be in a group that's recorded or not recorded? We'll have breakout rooms. Other people said that they would be recorded or not recorded, so I just wanted to know where to put you.
I'm not bothered about that, but I'd like to be in a group with Vinny.
Okay.
If possible.
You are now in a group with Vinny.
Thank you.
You'll be the not recorded group. So I'm Edwin Rutch from the San Francisco Bay Area near Berkeley, California, and I'm in the local Extinction Rebellion group as well as the Empathy Circle, Extinction Rebellion Empathy Circle work group. And so that's me. So I'm going to go back to sharing and give a little bit of an overview of how the practice works. Many of you know how it works already, but we'll share this. So this is just a quick overview of how to take part in the Empathy Circle, and it's going to just zip right through this. What is an empathy circle? So it's a structured dialogue process that supports meaningful and constructive dialogue. And you can see here at UC Berkeley, we're doing empathy circles with the students here. And it's a practice based on mutual empathic listening. And this is also called active listening or deep listening or reflective listening. So it goes by different words. I like empathic listening. And some reasons why you might want to participate And so basically the benefits of the practice. First, it's a very easy practice to learn and host. So if you're at an XR, at some event there, you can just get a few people together, explain how the practice works, and just get started with, minimal effort. It doesn't take a lot to take part. It develops active listening skills. So this is like a core practice that really has a lot of benefits. And this is empathy circles are a real good way, I think the best way of learning this practice. Each participant, you'll feel seen, heard, and understood to your satisfaction, and that can be very fulfilling. It builds trust. So if you've got a group and you want to build trust between participants, if you do an empathy circle, it really builds trust because each person knows that they're going to have a chance to be heard and seen. And this is also good for team building. And if it bridges all kinds of personal, social, and political divides. We use it between the political left and right and bring the different sides together, for example. So, for family conflicts or whatever, that's number 7, it can head off conflicts. So if you're in a group, you're talking with each other, and it can kind of head off conflicts before they happen. As well as once you do have conflicts, you can bring people into an empathy circle, and it's like the core of conflict mediation. And it offers emotional support and healing, like going into one of these events, occupation or what have you. It's very, anxiety producing, and just to have a space to be able to be heard about those feelings is very supportive and healing. And it's a foundation practice, I think, for just a lot of other practices. If you're doing NVC or any kind of facilitation, you can build on this basic practice. And I think for democracy too, being instead of power over, democracy is about power with. So it's really good for that too, building more democratic practice. How to. It's an empathy circle can be from 2 to 7 people, but 4 people is a good amount, just so that each person has more time to speak and be heard. And there's basic roles that you'll have. One is there'll be one speaker, there's one active listener, and the rest of the participants are silent listeners, and at any one moment. And then there's a facilitator too, and they just have a little bit of experience with the practice, and they just keep everyone in the practice, but they're also a participant. And to begin with, there'll be a facilitator in each circle, and they just hold the practice. They'll do the timekeeping, and then they'll invite the first person to speak. And sometimes if people aren't familiar with the practice, as a facilitator, you can ask people to speak to you just to model the listening. And then to begin with, how the practice works, the facilitator will ask a participant who would like to volunteer to begin. And then as the speaker, you select who you want to select who you want to speak to. And then that person becomes the active listener, and then you speak about the topic given or what is alive for you. And you want to speak until you've expressed an idea or two, and then you want to give a pause so that the listener can reflect back what they hear you're saying. And if you say too much, it can be difficult for the listener to be able to reflect back. And let's see. Then we go to the next. And then as the listener, as the active listener, you're just listening to the speaker to really get an understanding of what they're saying and why it's important to them. And you're giving them your full attention, and you're really a companion on their journey. I kind of like that metaphor of empathy as being a companion on someone's journey and exploration. And it's really helpful if you can listen for what they're feeling and kind of reflect that back, but you don't have to do that, but that's sort of extra credit. When the speaker pauses, you want to recap your understanding of what they say and how they feel by reflecting the essence in your own words. And you can summarize, you can paraphrase, or even say some of the words back if you want. And if you have you might have some, strong impulse to like add your own comments, but you just want to hold back on, any kind of, not sharing your own ideas or judgments or advice or sympathy, because you're just wanting to reflect back what you're hearing the speaker say. And then as the speaker, you're check it once the active listener is reflected back, you check, do you feel like you were understood about what you were saying? And if you do not feel understood, you can just say it again, perhaps in different words. And if you do feel understood, you can continue sharing and speak again for a couple, share a couple ideas and then pause again. And then the active listener will again reflect back their understanding of what they heard. Until, and the cycle just keeps going back and forth like that until you as the speaker feel fully heard or the time is up. And here you can say we have the 5-minute time warning here. And then once you see that, you'll want to kind of wrap up in a sentence or two. And after you get your final reflection, you can end your turn by saying, I feel fully heard or something like that, just to show that you're done with speaking. And then at that point, the speaker selects another person to speak to, and the cycle just continues like that for the time allotted. And let's see, we have a few tips here. And the best way is just to kind of just start doing it. You kind of learn by doing. But a few tips is, as the speaker, you can select who you'd like. It's your choice as the speaker to select anyone you want, but for inclusion, it's nice to kind of spread the attention. So just select someone that hasn't spoken, maybe in that round, but it is your choice ultimately who you want to speak to. You may not have anything that you want to say, and you can pass your turn by selecting someone and say, I have nothing to say, and the active listener will reply, I hear you feel fully heard, and the we'll recap what you said, that you have nothing to say, and then then you can say, I feel fully heard, and then this active listener becomes the speaker. So that's just sort of a tip for how to pass on your turn. And another, just a reminder, is to pause often to give the active listener a chance to reflect back what you heard. And another tip is, as the active listener, sometimes the speaker, kind of go on for a while. It's like, oh, I can't remember, everything they're saying, and I'm kind of losing the thread. So you can ask for a pause. That's the one time you can sort of interrupt and say, can you pause for a second, just so I can reflect back my understanding of what you say, and you can hold up your hand and maybe just get their attention. And then as the active listener, you, again, like I was saying before, you may have a desire for wanting clarification or something, or wanting to add some of your own comments, but really refrain from adding your own thoughts, since these can sort of block the empathy. And that when it's your turn, you'll have time to share whatever you want. So when it's your turn, you're free to totally say anything that you want. And finally, today's topic is share any feelings, concerns, fears, hopes, etc. about the Extinction Rebellion, October Rebellion, or share whatever is alive for you, just anything that's on your mind. And the time limits are going to be 5 minutes. And we're going to go to our breakout rooms now. And so we have, do we have everybody in breakout rooms? I think everybody's still here, same people. So Martha, would you like to facilitate the second one? And let's see, and Susan, well, you'll be in my group if you'd like to facilitate that one. So I'm going to go to the breakout rooms, And here we go. Well, at 15 minutes till, we'll come back again. So hopefully, there we go. Yeah, I got, somehow it didn't move to break out. There you go. Is there?
So the first part of this then is one of us will start with 5 minutes, but we need a timer, somebody to like hold up. Are you?
I think I put you in the wrong room, Martha. So let me get you.
Oh, we're still adjusting rooms.
Sorry
here.
about that.
Oh, I'm going to lose my timer. Marta's going in the other room. We'll wait.
Okay.
Because I don't have my iPhone here with me.
Bye, Marta.
You okay?
Sorry, this is where
And
breakout. There we go.
Mateos, how do you say your name?
Edwin can help you.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
He was practicing before we
He was
started.
practicing. I missed the practice session.
No, it's Mateusz.
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 Mateusz. Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the reasons I'm on these calls is to expand my cross-cultural experience.
Yeah.
I don't get to travel as much as I used to when I was younger.
Yeah, it's good training for your muscles here.
Yeah, Mateusz. Mateusz.
We have very harsh language, you know. Either I'm trying my Spanish or English. I have this like strong Polish way of speaking, you know.
Well, that's our early training. That's hard to unlearn and all of that.
Sorry, I moved you into the other room, Bill. I kind of messed up on the monitor. So
I think I got a little whiplash there.
All right, this is us. And Mateusz, were you going to do the timing?
Yeah.
Did you volunteer for that? Because I have, Bill has helped with that in the past. So is this something, Mateusz, you want to do?
Okay, yeah, I can do it. Yeah,
you
sure.
do the timing, okay.
So I will just show the sign, right?
Okay.
And make a comment too, because if you're on a cell phone, you might not see everyone.
Okay.
So.
Sure.
Okay. So just say that's 5 or some, short neutral term like that. Thank you.
Sure.
All righty. So you've got the topic and the structure. Who would like to start with your first 5 minutes, sharing what are your hopes and concerns about Extinction Rebellion or anything else that's alive for you now? And just what you do is you raise your hand to start and then pause, like Edwin said, pause every so often. And then, of course, you have to pick your listener, who's going to be your active listener.
Okay, I can start.
All right, and who would you like to be your reflective listener?
Susan, could you be my active listener?
I will do that.
Okay, excellent. So I'll put the time. Yeah, for me now it's like actually I'm taking antibiotics now. I'm quite sick and I don't feel like there is so many things happening now, and I know I'm gonna stuck in bed for next 2 days. And yeah, but the good thing about the movement, it's I just came back to Poland, and I'm talking to my friends now just by the phone. But there is a lot of people who get interested into the topics, and they want to do something with it. So I'm happy about this.
So I heard you say, Mateusz, that you're on antibiotics right now, so you're not feeling tip-top. And at the same time, you're doing a lot of phoning with people in the movement, and there's beginning to be a lot of questions, a lot of enthusiasm, and you're quite happy about that. Did I get what you were saying?
A small correction was I was not calling to my friends from the Extinction movement. It was just my close friends, you know, who never get into the movement, but just by regular talk, we had these common things, you know.
Okay, so just to correct that, these were friends that you have been talking to by phone, and you're happy at the interest that is being shown by your friends.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I feel heard. And to add something, I also sometimes I don't feel in power be able to discuss, to talk about what's wrong, what's bad. I kind of feel incompetent with the topic, you know. I have my own thoughts, but I'm really bad with convincing someone, like to showing the facts. And yeah, I feel I need to work on it.
So you're thinking that sometimes you're not so good at articulating what's wrong or what your position is on something. And so this is something that you think you need to work on more.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I thank you. I feel fully heard. I still have 2 minutes, but I'm very good. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll take my turn, and I will ask Lucy to be my reflective listener. You ready to do that, Lucy?
I'll give it a go. Yeah, let's go.
Thank you, Lucy. So when I was listening to Mateusz and he said he needed, so that's what's most alive for me is just what I just heard, which was when he said he needed, or he thought he needed to get better at convincing and articulating. I was saying to myself, well, this is the place to do that. We're here to practice on each other. So I'll pause there first.
So you're happy with this the empathy circle because you feel it gives us a chance to learn how to be good people who can communicate our thoughts about the rebellion to other people.
Yes, thank you. And now I'm saying to myself, and now what do I have to say about my feelings and thoughts about the Extinction Rebellion? And I just want to confess that I'm not involved in any actions, but I was on one other call here on an empathy circle, and I listened to people who were, and I got so moved and inspired. And it wasn't just young people. I was surprised, you know, it was people of all ages getting involved in this. And I just said to myself, I want to help in some way.
So you haven't really been involved in actions, but you've been inspired by other people, things they've done, and it's moved you to want to help in some way.
Yes, and I am having discussions in my living room. I have friends, and we've been discussing the topic. This is like a salon, a living room salon. The topic, what if there's no future? At least for humans. That's the topic that we've been discussing. And we have mostly just shared feelings. We haven't tried to debate, you know, the climate change statistics, because actually there's a range of different belief systems in the room. But what we're finding is that a lot of us are going through various stages of grief right now in witnessing what's going on the planet. And it has really helped to have some mutual support for that.
So you've been discussing, is it with family and friends about what if there's no future for humans, and that's led you all to a place of grief, even though you don't have necessarily you might have conflicting ideas about it all. You all feel a sense of grief together. Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm both in a certain place of grief for what I'm going to say, for how hard it is for humans to read the handwriting on the wall and see the need for changing our ways. And I personally feel like, even as a teenager, I could see that our way of living on this earth, humans' way of living, was not sustainable. And then I wrote a book about this in 1982, but that didn't, it's like nothing has gotten through until like the 11th hour. So I'm disturbed about that.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like you that this has been, what I'm hearing from you is that you feel that this has been going on for a long time, and you wrote a book about it a while back, and still here we are, and nothing has changed, and we're still fighting the same fight.
Thank you, Lucy. I feel fully heard. I was thinking, I was quite confused in that last share, and I says to myself, Lucy managed to hear everything I wanted to get across anyway. So I'll let you repeat that back, and then I'm finished. Okay,
so you feel fully heard, and you felt that I heard everything you had to say, and yeah, I'm delighted with that.
I want to say good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
It's very interesting. I've never done that before, actually, and like, you listen in a very different way, don't you, when you know that you're repeating back? You actually really take it all on board, and actually, God, yeah, it's really powerful.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Perfect.
So then your turn to take 5 minutes and pick who your listener is, Lucy.
Perfect. Now.
Okay. Was it Bill, the other person who hasn't spoken yet? I suppose. Is it Bill?
Yeah, Bill.
You're muted, Bill.
Oh, Bill or Edwin? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll listen. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, I'm here in Ireland, and we're off up to Dublin next week, and I feel a little bit like Extinction Rebellion Ireland is living in the shadow of like the UK movement, that's expecting 30,000 people on the streets of London, and I'm worried that we haven't got the people here in Ireland to make the kind of impact that we really hope that we can make.
Mm-hmm. So you're ready to do an XR action in Dublin, and there's another larger or another movement called the UK movement, and so you're kind of concerned that the XR priorities will be kind of lost in that larger movement.
No, I feel it's more that Ireland is a country with a small population, and I don't know if we're going to have we're planning a 7-day rebellion, and I just don't know if we're going to have the amount of people on the streets of Dublin to really make the impact that you might see in other capital cities around the world.
Okay, so your correction is that it's not so much the other movement or political movement, but it's a question of do you have enough people to basically make the impact, the XR people make the impact that you'd like to make.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah. I've been coordinating down here in West Cork in a rural location and holding meetings, and I know that there are activists around, because there's been certain things happening in my localities that they've been involved with, but I'm just not getting numbers to meetings, and I'm finding it kind of a little frustrating that the people who should be on board just aren't sort of jumping in with this movement.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing local actions around where you are, and you feel that there's some interest, but when you hold a meeting, the numbers are not appearing, and so that's concerning to you.
Yeah, exactly. And you've put a lot of effort in on a personal level, and I guess in a way, I feel a little bit let down by people who I know said they might come, but then they don't come, and then you really because what I really want is people to support this movement, and without the numbers and without the people coming, it kind of feels like it's a bit of a drop in the ocean.
Okay. So, first I hear your deep commitment to this movement and, and its ideals and its goals. And so you're trying to get other people involved, and you're afraid that if not enough people really take it as seriously as you do and actually act on their feelings, the message will be lost.
Yeah, exactly that, Bill. Also, like, there's a fair amount of people who I thought would be allies turned out to be conspiracy theorists, and they think there's like another reason why XR is there, or they feel like Greta Thunberg is being manipulated or used so people can make money. And I just feel like it's really sad that that they just can't unify. We can't unify behind the same message, because I know that we're all on the same page, but we're all sort of, people aren't jumping on board with this because they're worried about corruption at some level,
So there's a pervasive, feeling of distrust. So even among people who you feel, have the facts and are concerned that their conspiracy theories and things like that get in the way of getting them involved and trusting each other and acting on that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just really hope that, I know it's going to be great. I know we're going to go up to Dublin and, have a really powerful message and do some really good workshops and do some really good actions and some really sort of like make a big song and dance about things. But I kind of hope that it's well supported by the people of Ireland. I really do. I really want there to be enough people for it to be like a really, really big message.
Mm-hmm. So you really feel confident about the people that you're working with and the message and the actions that you're taking. You think that they're really good and effective, but you still want to make sure that there's enough popular support to really get the message across the way you'd like to.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, thank you, Bill. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay. All right. And I think we're, Edwin?
Yep, listening. Okay.
God, I'm reacting. So I'm going to go with a bunch of reactions to various. So to Mateusz, I'd say you don't have to know everything. You just share your, ambiguity, share your questions, and invite those other people, like what we're doing here, to come along. And Susan, I was just at a full moon ceremony in the same sort of situation where these lovely people had these outrageous ideas, and I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do sometimes. Let's see. And Lucy, I just really want to appreciate from all the way over here, thousands of miles away, your dedication and energy. One of the things that I get from these groups is just people, you don't in the mainstream media, I don't mean to like cast a wide net, but these things aren't talked about or addressed. And so when I find people who are really dedicated and caring, it really helps me in not only in the movement, but in the everyday life. Okay, so those are the three things
Okay, well, reflect that. So I'm hearing you had a lot on your mind in response to what you're hearing. And for Mateusz, you're trying to encourage him to just have a chance to speak, I guess, in a group like this. So just trying to encourage him. With Susan, it's like you were at some group and you know kind of what she was going through with all the different emotions that come up. And with Lucy, I don't remember.
Sure, I know it was a lot.
It was quite a bit there.
I know, I should have paused. So just a correction to use, to talk, but also to, you don't have to know everything.
Oh, I don't have to know everything.
That's
yeah,
right. You don't have, just be authentic
mm-hmm.
about your journey and what you're thinking about. And you'll find that people will really react positively, I think. Mm-hmm. And then Lucy, I was basically, I'm inspired by Lucy.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just want to share your inspiration by what Lucy is doing. And Matthäus, just your words of advice is, you don't have to know everything.
That's right. Just be,
So you want to encourage him.
Yeah. And I've been thinking a lot about, I viewed the video of the first talking card, video presentation for XR. And then the last one I was on with Talk Shop. And I'm just exploding with ideas, and so in one sense, I'm really excited to share them. In another sense, socially, I'm kind of concerned that people think, oh, well, he's taking an unwarranted leadership role or whatever like that. So that's what I'm kind of struggling with right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you watched rewatched the Talk Shop, the Future Democracy Hub videos, and it just created just all kinds of ideas are coming up for you about it. Just a lot of creative ideas, and then you do feel some hesitation because you feel like you're going to be judged, like, oh, you're taking a leadership role. Like, why are you taking a leadership role? And you're feeling some concerns about that.
Right. So that being said, I've never been one to talk about, to let barriers get in the way. So so I have a lot of ideas, and one of the things we're talking about is math empathy circles. My feeling is that what XR is saying, that we have a better way. We have a better way to do this. So as I see going ahead, how do you communicate that to the populace? So one of the ideas that I came up with was better ideas, having empathy circles, having a chair open for passersby. You don't have to block anything. You don't have to put yourself into any kind of legal jeopardy or physical jeopardy, and say, we have better ideas. Use the talking cards in the citizens' assembly to say, okay, well, we have, for instance, one of the things is we're subsidizing fossil fuels in the UK. What's a better idea? And then invite people into those circles to talk about that. In other words, demonstrate the effectiveness of the citizens' assembly to the people out in the street. And this is all part of my sort of get to know us, we're not your enemies political strategy. I'll stop there.
So yeah, you have a lot of ideas coming up, and one is that XR is about having a better idea, and you want to build on that. That, hey, we have some better ideas. You want to be able to model that through listening and through a lot of different ways. And so you're just kind of bursting at the seams to kind of try, share these and try them out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, inclusively.
Inclusively. So it's not so combative, but it's more of an inclusive approach. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thank you, Edwin.
Okay.
I feel fully heard.
Okay. Then thanks. Then I'll speak to Matthäus.
I'm listening.
Okay. Yeah. So. See, I think it was last week, Bill and I were in downtown San Francisco, and we took part in an occupation of the downtown financial district streets. And there was a bunch of groups got together around the climate change, and they created these murals, on the street, and we set up the empathy tent and offered listening. So that's sort of how, kind of one of the things that we did.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying the last week in downtown San Francisco, there you were participating in the occupying the
kind of a financial district, the street, the main. It's kind of like the Wall Street of the West.
Yeah. I was going to say Wall Street, but doesn't.
It was, yes, the Wall Street of the West.
Yeah. So you put your tent over there during they were doing the murals, And yeah, that's
yeah.
it.
And then we also, the week before, there was the climate strike, and we went to the university and set up the tent there, and you know, around the climate strike. So it was a lot of fun to be out and kind of engaging to do all those different activities. So I quite enjoyed it, and it was good to have Bill and his wife Christine and another friend of ours, Dave, you know, kind of working on all that. So it was a lot of fun. Good
So
team.
So you've mentioning that there's a lot of things going on recently, and you also took action in another of the demonstrations for the climate, and you really enjoy it. The time you're spending there with Bill and with his wife.
Yeah, his wife Christine.
So yeah, you appreciate the time over there.
Yeah,
that you can act.
And so, and for the rebellion, October 7th, I don't know what our local group is doing. They've become very quiet, and I don't know I don't know if there's anything planned, because and I've been a bit disappointed with the local group in the sense that I reached out to the leadership and I said, hey, would you do empathy circles with us? You know, we want the leadership, people who are taking sort of a leadership role, to model an empathy circle. And I think that would help kind of spread it through the local groups. And it's like, oh, we don't have time. Somebody said they have, let's see, let me just move this. Sorry, somebody just joined. I'm putting them in another room. And so it just hasn't been very supportive of the empathy. You know, we can go set up, we can do this stuff, but the organization itself seems to have these walls up around the empathy circles and the empathy work. So I just don't understand it, and been trying to, you know, bring the empathy circle work into our local, you know, XR group, and it's been really difficult.
Let me reflect that. So you're saying that for the upcoming 7th of October and the International Rebellion, you feel kind of disappointed with the local groups? Maybe not disappointed, but yeah, you would like to
disappointed. I feel disappointed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, as you've mentioned, you tried to communicate with the leaders there, but you didn't get positive reply, and you're a little kind of afraid of the like organization over there.
That's it.
Is it something more?
Yeah, there's. They keep saying, oh, empathy is good, we support empathy, but then they don't do anything. They won't put it in their calendar, you know, on their Facebook calendar. There's all these kind of blocks. They won't take part in empathy circles. There's, they always get like, yeah, this is good, but then they don't do it. And I'm almost ready to occupy the Extinction Rebellion itself. It's like, I'm ready to go set up if they have a meeting, take the empathy tent, say, I am occupying Extinction Rebellion, and I want to have, you know, I want to have an empathy circle with the leadership. What is the role of empathy in this group, you know? So that's...
we had 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'll just try to
like that out, then I feel heard.
I also remind what you were saying before, that everyone is saying yes to the empathy circle, but they don't do it by themselves. Like, everyone is saying this is important, but they are not doing this in the life. And
Mateusz, you seem like you're starting to express yourself. So who would you choose to be?
No, he was just reflecting. I think
he's reflecting.
He's finishing.
Oh, yeah. I saw this and I thought we were moving on.
It was a final reflection. Then,
Okay, go ahead then. Sorry.
Yeah, that was mainly this point to, like, as I understand. There was also a part with occupying a tent with the tent, and also trying to ask people what's wrong with the empathy.
Yeah.
Like why you're not taking this. I feel lost with the ending.
Oh, okay. Well, let me just clarify that I want,
Yes.
it's occupying Extinction Rebellion to have them, you know, sort of use the same tactics they're using on other people, use it on the local group to get them to do something about empathy. That's but with that, I
Okay.
feel heard. I think I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So maybe I can choose Lucy to be active listener.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with it's nice to listen to you, and I can find myself in what you're saying, and also with you, Lucy, that with this message of Greta, for example, there was I thought we have the common goal here, and that can unite us. But of course, at the moment, they're gonna attack some people and point the negative sides of those leaders, because I don't know why they're doing that. But that's also my doubt, and I don't like it looking at this on my social media when I see something. Yeah, I'll make space for reflecting.
Mm-hmm. So you could see some echoes and things that I said in the way you're feeling about things, and then you notice that on social media, people are attacking certain things like Greta Thunberg's what she's doing, and yeah, you find it difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, the processing today, it's it's much more difficult. Yeah, breathing. Yeah, and also what Susan said about her friends and their doubts. I I'm splitted into. I have this big grief inside about the future, that there might be no solution for that. But from the other hand, I see a possibly beautiful journey of of humanity nowadays, where we gonna follow like the good side of ourselves, trying to make better community and better democracy and better world.
So you feel grief about the current situation we're in, but you have hope because you think that possibly people, through communities and people coming together, we can build a better world.
True. And recently I also was listening to the lectures of the not sure if that's the same word in English, like ornithologist. It's a person that's specialized in birds observations and go on, and he's he's kind of person of biology.
Ornithologist,
Yeah,
study of birds. Ornithologist, study of birds.
Ornithologist, yeah, and also interested in nature. And he was talking about the Amazon forests, and in general about the rainforests, that once cut it, they're not gonna come back to the primordial stage, kind of. But he was also saying that, which this words give me a big hope, that nature can surprise us, And all this movement now, it's like imagining a crash, a car crash. We are driving a car and we see in front of us there is another car, but it's big possibility we're gonna die. But either way, we're gonna put the brakes on and have hope that maybe we can survive somehow. And that's good metaphor for me now, that we need to do as much as possible. Maybe we're gonna, find a solution and be lucky.
So you feel you enjoy this metaphor that this ornithologist gave you, that we're driving towards a tree or a crash site, and we're going to crash, or we might crash, but what we're going to do is put on the brakes and see what happens, and that's where you feel we're at the moment, where it's time to put on the brakes and slow everything down.
Yes. There was also some fact parts about the jungle, but in general, I feel fully heard. Thank you, Lucy. Mm-hmm. And the time is, you can choose the person. Thank you.
Is it me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I choose Susan.
Okay.
So I know there's lots of things that I want to get off my chest, but I can't think of anything at this moment. Let me have a little think. So do you mind if I pass on my turn? Is that okay?
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and I process my thoughts and yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll take my turn and I will pick William to be my listener.
Okay, I'm listening.
Okay. So I think I want to process, like Lucy used the word process my thoughts. I think I want to process some discouragement or some pessimism. Ideally, but first I just want to say, I do really like what Mateusz said about we may be there may not be much of a future for humans, or there, at least as we know it, things may be heading downhill, but we always have to do the best thing. We have to plant trees and take to the streets and wake up our politicians and create simple regenerative communities. Yeah, we have to do all that. I like that as my general philosophy. But now that I've said that, I'm going to pause, but let you know that the next part is going to be my pessimism.
Okay. So you start out by saying you do want to process your pessimistic feelings, but you wanted to frame that. And so you do believe that win, lose, or draw in this situation, that these things that we're doing to enlighten politicians, to try to put the brakes on, as Mateusz said, are worthwhile endeavors and that should be engaged in. And now you're going to lay the heavy dude on us.
Yeah, because I usually am more the better ideas cheerleader in my community, but I'm going to take a risk here and complain a little bit or something.
Sure.
So I wrote this book in 1982, which was called Earth Community: Living Experiments in Cultural Transformation. And it was all about how human beings have overshot, or pretty much overshot, the carrying capacity of Earth. And it looked at intentional communities, land-based, regenerative culture, communities that were all about really living the permaculture values and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've studied these people and I wrote a book about it.
Okay. So you wrote a book in the early 1980s about studying regenerative culture and alternative communities that were based on more ecologically and also democratically sound ideas.
Yeah. And one of the things that I learned was that a lot of these communities, in order to, I'm going to say, live a righteous life or live a sustainable life, they spend an awful lot of time in meetings, in a democratic process, trying to reach agreement. And it was tedious. So, say that much.
So one of the commonalities that you found of all these groups was the amount of time that they needed to spend in meetings discussing and achieving some sort of consensus.
Yes. And this, for these guys, this was a priority, you know, living in a sustainable way. And okay, so, you know, so I'm saying, even the guys who put it high on their priority, it was incredibly time consuming. You know, there's that. And then I think about what Lucy was saying, for example, about her friends, you know, kind of feeling disappointed that, you know, they don't get more involved or people aren't getting more involved. And so I'm saying, how are we going to make people shift their priorities? Because it's the work of creating sustainable culture. It takes some work. So that's pause.
Okay, so two main points there. One is that even in these groups that prioritize living well and ecologically sound and stuff, the meeting time and the time it took to achieve any sort of consensus and action was really tedious and difficult. And this is, you know, a problem as you see it. And then, and the next thing is you were talking about Lucy, and also the fact that what also makes you feel pessimistic is the fact that people aren't really catching on and really being energized by these ideas and this situation. They're not being energized to action.
Yes, I feel fully heard, and I noticed that it's the time's up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Did I miss?
I'm just getting started, Bill.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But maybe I'll get another turn.
Okay. All right. How you doing, Lucy? You want a little bit more time, or you feel that you're ready?
No, I feel I can go, actually. Yeah, I feel a bit inspired by Susan, so yeah, I can maybe
Okay.
pick up from there.
Okay, so Lucy, would you listen to me, please?
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, like, just listening to Susan's last point there, like, I feel a lot of my anxieties are based on other people. Lack of action.
Bill was going to speak to you, Lucy, then you'll get, once he speaks.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Bill.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
But if you can speak to me again, I'll reflect you if you're ready to go. It looks like you're ready to go, and you know. So
yeah, I'd like to have Lucy. I'd vote for Lucy having her turn. And
okay, why don't you speak to me and I'll go next after you.
Right, but we can go out of order when the energy is in that direction.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. As long as you're happy with that.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So no, I feel a lot of my anxieties are
but you do have to pick a listener.
Oh, okay.
Listener.
Okay. Well, Bill.
Okay.
I feel like you were listening to me then. Yeah. So
okay.
I feel like I'm speaking to you then, Bill. So let's go.
Okay.
So I feel like a lot of my anxieties are based around other people's inaction on things, or their lack of awareness of the situation that we're in at the moment, and that really worries me. I really worry that people aren't really ready for change, the change that's needed to happen in order to sort of bring us into a better place in the world.
Okay, so basically, as you look around and you take the kind of the temperature or the mood of the people, you feel that they're really not ready for the changes that will have to be made, and that's very concerning to you.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if we're gonna move anywhere towards stopping like a global rise in temperature, people need to make drastic alterations to their lives. I don't think people really realize that. I think people are sort of, they're walking around with their reusable bags, and they're refusing straws in bars, and actually it's really goes way beyond that. It's far more serious than most people are really willing to acknowledge at the moment.
So right now there are a few small things that people are doing, like refusing straws or going by, using reusable bags. But the changes that will be needed will be vastly greater, and people just aren't either intellectually or emotionally prepared for those levels of changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if as a society we even know what kind of changes really are needed. Lots of different renewable options aren't in terms of energy use really aren't perfect answers, and it leaves me in a state of I feel a bit fearful, because what if we don't actually manage to make these big changes? If someone like me is still using fossil fuels to heat my home and run my vehicle, and I have a very good idea of the situation we're in, how are you going to get all the rest of the people who are living in all over Ireland, for instance, to drastically reduce their energy consumption, or to get on board with any deals that the government puts in place to move towards greener, more renewable sources of energy.
So you're using yourself as an example to say that, you haven't been able to cut out fossil fuels in your life. And so you're wondering, and, you've been involved and active, for quite a while and aware of the problems. And so you're concerned that other people won't be able to understand or will not provide political support for the real, drastic changes that need to be made.
Yeah, I don't think that they will get behind. I don't think they're ready to embrace the idea that life as we know it drastically needs to change in order to save the world that we live on.
Okay, so you feel that people generally don't know that the behavioral changes that are needed to make in order to ensure our survival as a species.
Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, I feel
Sure.
fully heard.
Okay, anything more?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay. All right. Mateusz?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay. Um, so let's see, what's that? Well, first of all, it was nice to actually have to reflect the misgivings and the pessimism from Susan and Lucy and the concerns, because I think that this is an excellent place for that, just to sit with it. And, so I'll stop there for right now.
So you think that was good that we could reflect each other doubts and pessimism, because it's a perfect place here to do that?
Right. And then I'll get back to why, I think that empathy circles are key to helping with these changes. And because empathy circles build community very quickly. It builds trust very quickly. And from that point of view, people can act, in community and effectively.
So what you're saying, the empathy circles and the empathy culture, it's the key to success. Mm-hmm. Of the movement. And is
Sure.
that, yeah? And I missed the last part. What was it?
Well, it builds community very quickly. It builds trust and community very quickly. And the only other thing, the small correction, is that it's not the only key. There's never ever one key. But it's an excellent tool, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's the correction was also it helps to build the community very quickly and in a good way, and it's not the key, it's not the only key to
Right.
build the community.
Right. And so that's why in my own personal regenerative culture, I like to listen to people, because when I'm participating in this empathy circle, I'm actually creating right here, right now, the society I wish to live in.
So you're saying that by participating in empathy circles,
Mm-hmm.
you're like you're building this, you're participating in building the community to the better world.
Yeah, but not more, even more than that, this is the empathic community. I mean, in other words, we're creating a microcosm right here, right now. So that's,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that's actually happening now, that we are in this space.
Right. And I think that a joke that I make sometimes at the end of these is that you didn't know me 2 hours ago, but after these 2 hours, you'd let me house sit for you.
So you're saying that as a joke to people, that you didn't know me 2 hours before, but now, and I didn't get the English words.
Sure. You'd let me, house sitting is like if you go away on vacation and then you have a friend come over and look after your house and your pets.
Okay.
Things like that.
Okay. So yeah, as the finish of the joke was and then you're becoming house sitting me.
Right. And so, and I think that's very important. I think that part of the goal or the purpose of XR is to illustrate that to people and help them experience it, help them acknowledge that the society they want is very accessible in some ways.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that the goal of it is to show people that it can actually work this way, and it's very accessible and easy to do.
Right. Now, I don't mean to discount the concerns and pessimism, and the great challenges, but win or lose or draw, I'll put my cards on doing this. In other words, what successful or failure, I'd want to say this is what I was doing at this time, and that's it. I'm done.
Okay, I'm really struggled today with understanding.
Okay.
Forgive me, I feel a little
no
bit lost.
problem.
Yeah, actually, I cannot reflect, and
okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it. That's fine. No, you did a great job. Thank you, Mateusz. I feel fully heard.
Thank you, Bill, for the tolerance. Yeah, it's a total mess, and okay, maybe I can choose someone because it's, so maybe Edwin.
Listening.
Thank you. Yeah, there is, so just before I start the empathy circle, I was sleeping, and I still feel in this kind of mood. I didn't wake up, and it's very strong what you were saying. Yeah, and I feel kind of lost, but it's good. It's also activating the topics in my head, how that the things happening in your countries and in my country are very similar, and it's a condition of the humankind, and the pattern is repeated with no matter what country it is.
So you were sleeping just a little while ago, and you just woke up, so you feel a little lost. So mentally, a little, it's hard to kind of kind of focus. And but what you are sensing is that the dynamics of what's happening, you know, where you are and here and other places, it's sort of the same, similar human dynamics, because it's just sort of a kind of part of being human. You're just seeing the commonalities that we all have.
That's true. That's true. And yeah, the time is passing by. I'm looking now in the time, and yeah, I get really sick. I usually don't get sick, and now I'm like it's I'm taking antibiotics, but I felt like how much of my energy goes down as I get sick. My eyes, everything is different, and I have this like moment of enjoying the time. Every step I took, because I need to walk very slowly now, it's different, you know, like appreciating the time now because it's passing, you know, and you get you lose your health, and yeah, it's about enjoy and appreciating the time now for me.
So you're just noticing how with this health issue you're dealing with, it's sort of shifting how you're relating, and especially to time, that you're slowing down, just noticing sort of and appreciating every moment.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of solution I'm probably gonna take, like kind of philosophy for this movement. Yeah, and I think the regenerative culture is kind of good place to be, like to create this place. Yeah, it's about people. And
so you're seeing this quality of slowing down, being aware of what's happening in the moment. You can have that same approach with the whole XR movement, and just slowing down, being aware, and taking the time, and just the whole regenerative culture quality of it is sort of the space for that too.
Yeah, and listening to every one of you, it's very much upgrading my words by observing your emotions and what you're saying. It's kind of experience other life, and yeah, it's like having 5 lives now.
So you're sort of expanding the emotional quality. You're sensing each of our emotions and feelings, and sort of expanding the range of your own experience. And so maybe it sounds like you have some appreciation and value of that.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, I always was saying that like people are the most what I appreciate the most in life. Yeah, let's stay with that.
Yeah. So kind of stay with the appreciation of each other and people and in our lives, and you just see that as a real value. It has been a value of yours.
Yes, thank you. I feel fully first.
Okay, and I guess we'll speak to Susan then.
Okay, and let me clarify, Edwin. We have about 5 more minutes before we go back to the big group, or?
We have 20 minutes if
20
my
minutes.
clock is right here. At quarter till we'll go back. So that's about 20 minutes still.
Great. Okay, I'm listening.
Okay. Yeah, I was appreciating what Bill was saying about the empathy. You know, just really, you know, he and I are both real empathy enthusiasts. So I really, appreciate the, just kind of making the case and articulating, the importance of empathy in our lives and in XR too, you know, so I feel the same way.
So you're feeling appreciation for Bill and that special kinship that we have when we have that common commitment toward something, and your commitment is the way of empathy as a way of life, as a culture.
Yeah, and I think it's the same as Mateus is saying, is, you know, seeing the humanity of each other. I feel the same way as after these calls, that my sphere of brain, my feelings, my mind is sort of expanded, right, with everyone else. So it's that feeling of sort of an expansion that, you know, and the connection that happens too, that I value.
So you're seeing how just the experience of these circles expands your sense of yourself and our common humanity, and both the connections and hearing other people's ideas.
Yeah, and previously, I think Mateus had mentioned kind of critics, like critics of Greta, and so people who are critical. And I've been noticing, you know, as I see more on climate change, I've been seeing more of the criticisms of it. And I think the solution, the way forward there is to invite the critics into an empathy circle, right? It's like, I'd like to get the most extreme critics say, yeah, your points are, you know, really important. Would you take part in an empathy circle so we could dialogue about that? So always reaching out. And that's why I guess I see the empathy circle is so critical, because it becomes this tool for how we relate to critics. And they probably have good points too. There's this, one of the criticism is, oh, this is climate change alarmism. Well, maybe it is. Maybe there is some of that, and maybe that needs to be heard, you know, the concerns about that. So, but the way we do it is through these dialogues.
So you referred back to the theme of some people being critics of Greta Thunberg and just the movement in general. And in a sense, this helps you see a very important role for empathy circles. We can use empathy circles to hear from these people and actually see if we can empathize with them. They may actually have some valid points. If we listen to each other, there's hope.
Yeah. And actually, I think a lot of the criticisms people become critical when they're not being heard. So it expands the depths of their criticism, right? They become more, you know, more intense in their criticism because they're not being heard. So if we bring people into an empathy circle and they do feel heard, and then, you know, we can come up with strategies and so forth that include, you know, what everyone else, other views. Yeah. So I think that's why I just see this practice is like a really good first step, you know, and that's why I want to really popularize it.
So it's your belief that often people are critical because they're not being heard, and when they aren't heard, that just entrenches their current belief structure. Whereas when we can open it up and hear each other and listen to one another, it expands our sense of what the possibilities are, what the options are, and even kind of calms down the entrenched beliefs that perhaps the critics have. Yeah,
and I've seen it over and over again, how it kind of bridges those divides. And the other part was, I think you had talked about, it was like having the tediousness of consensus. So one thing that XR is using is holacracy, which is you create a clear intention and sort of a vision or a purpose, and then people just self-organize towards that, and you don't have to have consensus, you know. So I see that. Thanks, Matthews. So it's one way to address that tediousness of consensus building is, yeah. So just add that. That's it.
Yeah. So you letting me know, but also sharing that the XR movement, they don't work just one group trying to achieve consensus, but they use this holacracy model where you set the intention and then it's a self-organizing process. So it's much less tedious than trying to build consensus.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay. Well, what's up? Oh, let me, let's see. Lucy, would you be my listener?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I'm listening.
What's up for me is right now the point that you made, Lucy, about priorities. And well, I don't know if you use the word priorities, but the really big lifestyle changes. Here's the point you made was really big lifestyle changes are going to be necessary if we're going to accomplish really creating a sustainable culture. And in my world, it comes down to personal priorities, lifestyle choices has a lot to do with priorities.
So you're just recapping on what I said about we need to make some really big lifestyle changes, and you're saying in your world it's about priorities.
Yes, and both you and Edwin in their first share mentioned getting people involved, getting more people involved, whether it's in XR in Dublin or whether it's in the empathy support for the October 7. Getting people involved means, to me, they have to prioritize this over their daily life activities. So I'll just pause there.
So both myself and Edwin were talking about getting people involved. And for you, getting people involved is about people prioritizing going to the capital cities for the rebellion over their day-to-day business.
Yeah, and when I think back about the communitarians who dropped out of mainstream American society and went to live on a piece of land and actually a lot of them were using alternative energy, even solar. Back in those days, they were all experimenting with more renewable energy, and not that it was their total source of energy, but I saw how they got motivated to leave mainstream society. So I'll say that much.
So you watch communitarianism, people leave mainstream society, use alternative energy, not necessarily wholly, but using some of it. And you saw that they're inspired to leave mainstream society and do that.
Yeah, and if I could make a generalization, one of the things that sort of inspired them, if you want to call it inspired, is they were really sick and tired of the materialism and greed that they saw in their families of origin. These were rich people. These were rich kids. They weren't the poor people. So, I mean, it's almost like, yeah, it's easy for them to just drop out and have a new life, because if it fails, they can always go back to mom and dad.
So you saw rich people with privileges have the means to be able to go off and live this alternative life, and it's okay for them because if it does fail, then they still have funds and means to go back to living the previous life.
Yeah, so I'm stuck with how do we help all levels of society be more or less on the same page with, hey, we're all in this together. This materialistic corporatism, that word corporatism, it's a word that basically means it's all for corporate profits. Okay, so this materialistic corporatism is not working for the poorest or the richest or anybody in between. How do we get that across?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is that you're worried about equity and how we keep everybody you know, give everybody a chance to live in this world that we want to create, and how it shouldn't just be for the richest people who can afford to do it. It should be for everybody.
Yeah, so I'm trying to refashion what I wrote in that book back in 1982, because a lot has changed since then. But I'm trying to, like, what's the motivator? And so, you know, what's the motivator to get me to change my priorities? I think I have to start by looking at myself. Oh, how simplified am I willing to go here? And my friends and I talk about this a lot.
Mm-hmm. So you're thinking about your book that you previously wrote. You're thinking about how you can bring it into modern times, and I guess write something similar, but for now. And I'm sorry, would you repeat the last bit of what you just said?
Yeah, I'm starting to look at my own self and look at what would make me and my friends want to change our priorities so that we don't get on airplanes anymore, that type of thing. You know, I'm really looking at that.
So you're looking at yourself, and
but this is your last chance to, or our last chance.
So you're looking at yourself and the priorities in your life and what changes you can make in the situation that we're in at the moment.
I feel fully heard. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Susan. So Mateusz, would you do you mind listening?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. So it's really interesting listening to Susan speak, actually, because it really sort of makes me feel, it echoes a lot of my own thoughts sometimes, you know, and just talking about people moving to different communities or moving to different areas to start a more simple life, because it's something that myself and my partner have done. A year and a half ago, we moved and we bought some land, and we're trying to live our most simple life, but still it's probably not simple enough.
Okay, let me reflect that. So you're appreciating what Susan is saying, and you kind of feel a lot of in common. And also the topic of living in a kind of alternative way. And you're mentioning about your experience that you actually bought a land and moved there for, I'm not sure if that was 1.5 years ago or that was for 1.5 years with your partner there.
Yeah, 1.5 years ago we moved here, and you know, I guess in a way we're trying to make our lives a bit future-proof. You know, be sustainable, grow our own food, like have a permaculture farm, and yeah, and like, you know, we'd love to have green sources of energy, and we'd love to really live in a way that it has minimal impact on this earth. But actually, it's just, we find that in order to move towards green energy and have these things, actually you need quite a lot of investment, quite a lot of capital behind you, and we find ourselves in a position where we can't afford to actually live without fossil fuels, because we can't afford to put the infrastructure in place to have green energy, to have wind turbines and have solar panels.
Okay, so you're actually working on a future proof that's gonna show that you can live in a sustainable way without impact on the environment. But at the same time, you're sharing doubts that it's very difficult for you to stop using the fossil fuels because it takes a lot of investments into switching into this green energy.
Yeah, exactly. I live in the west coast of Ireland, where I live. There's plenty of people with similar views, you know, who are doing very similar things. There's lots of people who have a small plot of land and have moved here to sort of live a low impact life. And you know, there's lots of people who might have very left wing views, And just to go back to what I was saying before about worrying about people not going up to Dublin to protest, there's lots of people who I think who are like me, who are living in this way, who really care about the environment. But I think what they'll do is they'll probably just stay on their land, you know, hiding on their farms and just living the best life they can, but not taking to the streets and not protesting. And I think it'd be nice if people, you know, came out from behind their rocks and they protested with us.
Mm-hmm. So you're sharing with us that there is a lot of people who lives like in the West Ireland, the west part of Ireland, where you live. There is a lot of people with similar point of view, with the similar way of living actually, and yeah, you're saying that they are like, most of them are left wing, and again the similar point of view, but at the same time they don't want to put their input on the what's happening on the protest, and you wish they could join you and go from behind the stone, like to show themselves into that, but you're afraid that they're gonna just spend the life there trying to live in their own way, and they're not gonna join to the movement.
Yeah, exactly. I it's a good thing that what they're doing. I mean, a lot of people are very solutions based. They're living in a solutions based kind of way, where they create the world they want to see. But I think if they just quietly do that in their little parts of the west coast of Ireland, in a small rural community, it won't have as much impact as taking to the streets and trying to change the minds of the governments and change policymakers who really have the power.
Mm-hmm. So I'll just reflect that, and so you're saying that they are solution makers, creative people. That I wasn't sure. I was a little bit. The phone was ringing with the time, but I'm not sure about the first part. You were saying that they are solution makers, that they have creative minds, kind of, I understand, but they're gonna find solution for the current problem they have, but they're not gonna go to the streets and take part into changing the whole government action. Is that it?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And
Yeah, we
That was
are out.
5 minutes. Do you
Okay.
have
We're out of time.
any more that you know, did he, if he heard you,
no,
that's maybe we'll
no,
have.
I do. I feel. Yeah, I think I feel fully heard. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're at the time, so we'll go back to the main
Okay.
group. So I guess I'll do that right now. So thanks everyone for that.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. So we'll join the rest of the group. And
We can all leave breakout room and return to the main session.
okay, the others should
True.
join us in a second. They probably are needing to finish up somebody's.
Anybody want to stand up and take a quick stretch break? I actually need to take a quick bathroom break. So
Go
I'm
for it. It's a good time to do it.
Go for it, and I'll be right back.
So we do the check-ins. Bill, do you want to lead that? Just ask people what they just felt the benefits were, and just call on people.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, great. Everyone's back. So I'm going to stop the recording for